Hey guys, I'm here with Scudder for Mike, or is it Mick Pew Pew on Twitter? Is that your Twitter handle?
Yeah. Thank you for
Great.
having me on. I appreciate this.
I'm glad to have you because you are doing some things that absolutely nobody else is doing. No one that I've seen. You have one of the most unique, interesting Twitter accounts and really online presences I've seen in the community. And so I kind of want to ask you to explain that first of all. So who are you? What do you do? Tell us just a little bit about yourself to start off, please.
Sure. Scudder for Mike. I make YouTube videos. My channel primarily focuses on solo play for old school games because I found that I wanted to play a lot of these games and I didn't know how to do it. So I grinded through. Yeah. I can
Sorry about
hear
that.
someone. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was me. That was an echo. I don't know why that.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to know how to like play these games, so I kind of grinded through it, making a bunch of mistakes, and I recorded the whole process. And my comment section, these guys were great. They just like supported me the whole way. They're like, "Oh, here's how you do this." They're still doing that, by the way. They're awesome. My community's great. And so yeah, we've just kind of built up our own little solo play community, learning how to do games on YouTube. Yeah.
I have never tried to solo play anything. That you know what? That's kind of a lie because I've done it once and it felt kind of lonely. I don't play solitaire games. It's weird for me. Games are like a social experience, and I
Absolutely.
can't fathom doing it alone. Though I did watch your solo play, or at least one of them, of the Basic Experts White Box.
What an
That
awesome
was
system.
it was quite interesting. Yeah, I think I
That
was talking
dude
about
is
that recently.
great.
Absolutely. Oh, we have No Fun Allowed in chat. We have Mercurius. Wow, lots of people. Ultra
Hello,
American Team
everyone.
here.
Hello.
Hey guys, glad to have everyone.
I want to
Um,
join No Fun Alloud's West Marches game. He made a video
me
about a West Marches game. He plays old school essentials. I want to join that game, dude. Like I'm in.
to No Fun Allowed. That guy has helped me out running games for years. He's a. I want him on next. Right.
Yeah,
Anyway,
cool.
we'll talk later. No Fun Allowed.
Oh yeah, and so
Anyway.
I live in China, and I think like that's kind of one of the curiosities is that yeah, I live here, and I'm also an English teacher to kindergarten age children. So.
Right. Yeah, that's actually why I wanted to have you on. Can I would you mind if I shared a video that you shared on YouTube or on Twitter, that website? I have to find it again. Why do I have to find it again? I just sent it to you. Right. So I'm going to share this because I loved it and it kind of gives a good idea of what you're about and what you do. And
Sure.
I believe we've established that this is totally cool to share if I can ever figure this out. Okay. So I'm one of the absolute worst at using StreamYard. All right, here we go. It is this one. Can you guys hear this? Oh no, because I can't hear this. Right?
I think I heard it.
Oh, you did hear it? Okay.
I send the ice snake through the air, and it fights the big rat. Yeah, oh, no! And he says, the ice is so cold. All right, Shin Shin, it's your turn. There are two smaller rats, and this really big one stopping you from getting the birthday present. The little one. Okay. And, Shin Shin, his character is a little different. What can he do? Lucky. He can do lightning magic. Okay, Shin Shin, roll your dice. Twos? That's not so good. Let's see how I do. Twos? So, if it's a tie, who wins? Shin Shin wins! Good job, dude! Give me a high five! Oh!
That video completely captivated me the first time I saw it. I watched it like 4 or 5 times. It is adorable. Oh, it's lagging out. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, I think it's just tough to get through, but
I just wanted to share that. Yeah, it's actually my favorite thing about you. Yeah, I don't know about my boomer.
Not killing me in Bronsteins. That's not your favorite thing? 'Cause I thought maybe that was it.
Okay. Do we want to tell that story?
Do I want to tell it?
I don't
No,
know. Do you?
I'm not ready to talk about it.
Okay.
Just chat,
Um,
chat. She's so happy. Oh, thanks for the quote tweet. Oh, thanks for this. So sweet. Don't turn your back on Harmony Ginger in a PvP game. Let me just tell you right now. Lessons are learned. Okay.
I,
I remember next time.
I thought you knew that ShamWow was a Medusa. I'm sorry. Right. Anyway, back to, but I kind of want to keep this a little bit focused, at least somewhat,
Sure.
On what you do, because I think this is super interesting. So, what system were you running there for those kids?
That was Hero Kids. It's a
Hero
D6
Kids.
system. Yeah.
Okay, and
So
that's the one.
that one's great for like 3 to 5 year olds, because what they do is they're just comparing numbers, greater than, less than, or equal to, and so it's uh, there's not a lot of like math, not advanced math anyway. So
I feel like we need to answer this question.
why is
Right.
Medusa an HMO?
So the Ultra American TTRPGer, the Gorgon was from a story called Chambleau, and her name was Chambleau. It's from a classic story. I forgot the author's name, but I ended up reading it afterwards. And I couldn't remember the name one time when I was typing it, and I typed it as ShamWow, and it just stuck.
Actually, you introduced that character to me as ShamWow, and when I invited her into my home, it was under the pretext that she was like cleaning things or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, it was CL Moore. I love it. I was like, we're not going to come on here and talk about ShamWow. We can't
the
stay
most
on
important
topic.
thing.
Love it.
Yeah. So,
Right.
so Hero Kids, right? So what I like to do with that is it's a very loose system. If a character is good at something, they get to roll 2d6 and they take their higher number and they compare that against the dungeon master. But what I do with their classes is I take whatever they love, whatever interests them, and I just like slap it on a character sheet, and then that's who their character is. So my kids, they love Elsa from Disney's Frozen. So the girls are all like ice magic princesses, or some of them like Rapunzel with the long hair, so they have magic hair. The boys love Ultraman and Thor, so like you slap a Thor on a character sheet, and then they just get to run wild with it. So they get the archetypes, and they get to just run away with as much as they want, like with whatever fiction they want. So like it's really inconsistent. Like you'll have Elsa right next to a ninja, but it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's kids. I don't think they particularly mind that. So you make all the characters for them, basically.
So it's a blank character sheet, and then they just color in their character, and then they just draw pictures of dice next to, like, if they want to be a strong character or a magic character or something like that.
How long does that take to teach them? And do they all kind of follow that when?
Yeah, so they're all at different levels, and I think that's important to keep in mind whenever you're like looking at a class. I think normally my classes are around like 12 to 20 kids, and so as far as like how long it takes to teach them, what I like to do is I'll take the kids who are really picking it up and understanding the concept, and I'll let them help explain and teach other people whose English level isn't at theirs maybe. And the first step is telling them a story with like Dungeons and Dragons. I use the 1, 2, 3s of D&D and the ABCs of D&D. Do you know those books?
Yeah, actually, I got one of them for my nephew.
They're awesome. So there's actually some pretty advanced language in there whenever you're thinking about English as a second language. So I'll have to like help them as we go through the words, but when they see the pictures, they get it right away. They're like, oh, kids can be heroes. I can have magic. They see this stuff in media, and so they're like, I am all in right away. And whenever you roll dice, they're just little humans, right? So if you roll dice, their brains are like, I won. This is so great, So they get the concept of D&D pretty early, but their parents have no idea what they're talking about. They're like, what is D&D, Mr. Mike? What is that? The kids are talking about it all day. What is it?
So their parents don't know what it is, but is there like the same, like there's no stigma attached to it? Like you don't have more religious parents there who wouldn't want their kids to play it or anything. I had that problem
Mhm.
growing up, so it's something I was
Right.
thinking about.
You
It's
know,
not a
I never
thing.
had it growing up. I did have my dad was worried about magic cards though. He didn't I don't maybe he didn't he actually kind of loved D&D, but he was worried about magic cards for some reason. But no, in China that culture doesn't exist. The parents just don't understand it. In Chinese is 龙与地下城, which means Dungeons and Dragons. So if you translate it, it means dragons and underground places. And they're like, okay, I guess. I don't understand. I'm like, you roll dice and you use your imagination. So
Okay. So they kind of they get the concept at least. Like so how would you say what's the biggest hurdle? Because I know you run for both kids and adults. Do you ever
mm.
find yourself in like your games when you're playing with like your friends? Do you ever find yourself like running like you would for kids or talking to them like you would with kids? Or is that not a thing? Am I
That's
just
actually a
making
really
stuff
good
up? Mhm.
question. I would say that if I spoke with all native English speakers and played with all native English speakers, I don't think I would. But there is this dynamic. So, like, sometimes my games are completely foreigners from all over the world. I had a game where it was like 6 players. It was some Mexicans, Portuguese, Greek people, Chinese people, and so the language that you're using when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, it can't be as advanced if everybody's speaking their second or third languages. And so while I'm not like hand holding them, I am trying to traverse the language gap sometimes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I've never had to run for like kids that didn't speak English. I do run for my niece and nephews though, and it's just such a different experience. Like it's a different game really. Now, when I run for my niece and nephews, I still use some of the principles that I use when I run with adults. Like we don't fudge dice rolls. If it's rolled and we go with it. And we kind of have we're kind of learning how to lose and how to come to the conclusion like I'm not strong enough for this and I need to turn around and run away because otherwise these goblins are going to kill me.
Mm.
So we're kind of coming to terms with those concepts and learning, that we're not always going to rush through everything. Do you run like that with them? Like, do you like let them win, or
Mm.
how do you do that with kids?
I do let them win,
Mhm.
but the dice they fall as they may, and because it's a learning tool, and so like I want them to see low numbers compared to my high numbers. I want them to be able to compare and know, because like some of them are 4 all the way up to 6 in my class, and so at like that's a big age jump if you're talking about early learning, and so I want them to see that like, oh, okay, I didn't succeed because my number is lower, and that's important. But at the end of the day, like the hero kids are going to come away with like a victory because I want them to be really engaged and excited. I've never had anyone lose. I've never had a class lose, but the way the dice are structured with hero kids, the math just plays out where they're gonna win because
Okay.
ties go to the kids, and so um, now whenever we're talking about like the 4 to 6 year olds, I always let them win. But whenever I've played with like 11 to 15 year olds, oh man, I throw everything I can at those kids because they're so smart. They have like all these strategies and they want to test things, and so yeah, you can really you can give it to them whenever they're in their teens.
So it seemed like watching you play with those kids, the kids seemed to like really get into it. Like they loved it. Like you can tell that kid that was like up and like acting out his move, he was into it. Like that was the most fun he'd ever had in school, right? Do they ever come up with like wild plans, or do they take the story into their own hands the way that a lot of adults do, or do they just sort of follow your lead? Like what
Mm,
do they come up with like these wild like classroom wide plans like
mm.
Mr. Mike's not going to have any idea what we're up to. We
So
like, is
I
that a
think
thing?
their individuality comes out in the way they express what their characters do. Um, they they will talk about their characters throughout the whole day, And whenever they're when they're outside playing in PE, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, but without dice. They're pretending to be their characters, and they're running and chasing each other around. They always want to kidnap me for some reason. They want to put me they want to lock me up in a cage. I don't know what's going on with them, but yeah, they've got their plans. During the first session that we usually run every year, they have to rescue Mr. Mike from the Rat King, right? And so that gets them, there's a lot of like learning tools in this module that I use. And so after they know that you can put your teacher in a cage, like that's all they want to do for the rest of the year.
I love that. I love that that's the sticking point. Like,
Yeah.
have they ever decided
let's
to
lock
leave you in
him
the
up.
rat cage?
Right. Like we
Like-
could rescue Mr. Mike, or
Has anyone suggested it?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no, they're great. These like they will talk about Dungeons and Dragons all day. Like when they go home, they're talking about D&D to their parents, and their parents are like, I just don't know what it is that you're doing. They love it and they want to come to school. We're happy about that, but what is this game? You know, like, yeah. And I'll be teaching math, and they're like, Mr. Mike, could we stop and play D&D right now? And I'm like, no, we have to do class sometimes.
So you're their teacher all day at school, right?
Yeah, I'm a homeroom teacher.
Okay. And what portion, like how often does this come up? How often do you play D&D with them? And how much of your time in the classroom is that?
On Fridays, once we finish all of our goals for the week, but it's complicated. So I teach at an IB school, so international. It's an international program that focuses on like individual learning, and so as long as everybody is reaching their goals, they can play in the game. And what we try to do is at the end of the week on Friday, we try to make time for D&D. So about once a week for an hour, but it's broken up into smaller groups, like 2 groups. So I'll play with 30 minutes with one group, and then 30 minutes with another group. So
Okay. And so the other group's like doing something school related.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So you do have to break it up, because I was thinking like that's a lot of kids for like one group. But do they ever like mix up I have so many questions now. Do they ever mix up groups? Like, is it the same half of the class?
No, they don't.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't track that. They're like, yeah, okay, you're here now. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And do they have like an ongoing storyline, or is each time just a different little adventure?
It is absolutely an ongoing storyline, and they are obsessed with it. Right now, before class ended 2 weeks ago, they were chasing these crystals to capture the skeleton king inside of them. So they needed like 5 or 6 different colored crystals, and if they got all of them, they could just trap the skeleton king. They were like obsessed with that narrative, and it was played out over 3 months.
Okay, so please tell me more about this storyline.
Yeah,
I want to know the type of storyline you're running for these children learning English. I have to know.
So it all starts with like, why are we doing this? And I want to teach them vocabulary words. I want to get them using sentences as much as they can, and I want them to unlock their imaginations and have fun while they're at school, because if you're coming to class every day and you're just bored and miserable, you're not going to take away much. Or at least that was my experience when I was in school. And so when I'm like coming up with a story, we always start at the beginning, which is like, okay, these are monsters, right? These are like, skeletons could be scary to little kids. And so we're like, what isn't your imagination? How can we play games and know that no matter what, everything's going to be okay? How can we look to each other to help each other whenever our dice aren't there? Can your buddies help you? Actually, every time one of my kids rolls the dice and it's a low number and they're like, oh man, I had to wait my turn and I messed up. Immediately after, I say, who can help them? They drop their sword. Who's going to be able to help them? And instantly it's like, oh, me. And so we're building cooperation. And so with these, like, with the narrative, it's always going to come back to key vocabulary words and sentences. So like, they're going to say one word answers if they can. because they're kids and they're lazy. So you got to like push them. You're like, no, I need more than just hit them or sword. Give me a sentence. Like, how do you hit the skeleton? What do you do with your magic? Describe a picture for everyone to see. Yeah. Is that the question? I kind of was rambling
No,
there,
it's
right?
okay. That's okay. Take it where you want to, because I love
Yeah.
this. So something I can't imagine running for kids like that, because something I run into, I have a niece and 2 nephews who play together, and here's how it goes for me, okay? Because this is and I'm not their teacher, I'm their aunt, so like, we don't do vocabulary words, we just do dragons. But like,
Right.
they're playing as dragons because I let them play as dragons, and they think it's really cool. My niece is playing Dragony, the pink dragon, and my nephew is playing Spyro Jr., the Draco Lich.
Yes, that is awesome.
And then my other nephew is playing the Tutor, not Tudor, no, toot like fart.
Oh,
He yeah. He's a dragon that lost his wings and flies via farts because the kid's 4.
That is incredible. And how old are
Right.
the other 2?
So the kid that plays Spyro Jr. is 10, and the kid that plays Dragony, the pink dragon, she is 8. But yeah, so that's how those are their characters. But the problem I run into with just 3 of them is my niece who plays Dragony. She cannot stomach killing anything. I have to throw, if they want to do combat, I have to throw oozes at them, because anything else, Dragony will try to be friends with. And then Dragony will be very, very upset when Spyro Jr. breathes acid on something. And how do you square that? Because I know kids have very, very strong personalities and they clash. And like, in my experience, the little boys want to kill everything and the little girls want to be friends with everything. Like, how does that same dynamic come up in your games?
It does. Absolutely. All the time. Especially when you're playing with, I think, I don't want to generalize, but in my class, especially in China, the culture is like boys behave differently than the girls do. And so they have different intentions, different goals, different ideas about what the game should be. And so what I do, and I don't know if this is like the be all answer, but it's just something that's worked for me, is if they want to make a friend, and I will frame it like a charisma check is just if you want to make a friend with the monster instead of fighting it, I let them do the same roles that they would as if they were attacking it. And if they win, they convince the monster to leave the fight and go away and be their friend later. And the kids can, have that relationship later. And then I have to like come up with a name for that NPC, and they start collecting them. And then there's like 50 of these lions and unicorns and dragons that they've collected, but they are allowed to still engage in the combat. But instead of doing an attack, you convince them to be your friend. Now they want to be your friend, and they leave. And then there's only 3 skeletons left now.
So I heard that you had so many pets in your campaign that you had to pick out a kid for the title Zookeeper.
Yeah, they pick it amongst themselves who gets to do what job. And yeah, we do have a zookeeper. It started with a unicorn, right? So there was a unicorn, and everybody loved it. There was nobody in the class that was like, there's anything we can do with this thing except for ride it. But I think maybe I made a mistake when I was telling the story. I was like, only 2 of you can fit on the unicorn at a time. And they were like, I want to ride it. It's mine. And so I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. One of you is going to be the zookeeper, and you're going to take care of the unicorn. And you get to choose one other person, not yourself, one other person who has not had a turn on the unicorn yet. And you pass it on. So whoever gets to ride the unicorn after they get off, then they're the zookeeper, and they take care of the unicorn, and they say, you get to ride it this week. And so I realized that like there wasn't enough time in the game for everybody to get to ride the unicorn. So I started bringing in other animals, and it's out of control now. They have everything. They have dragons, they have lions, they love tigers. They've got everything.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, everybody's riding in with battle mounts.
Yeah, someone in chat is bringing up a Flint Fireforge says like Pokemon at this
Yeah,
point.
basically collect every
Yeah.
animal.
But yeah, apparently your kids are smarter than Trevor's players, so you have that
They
going
are
for
clever,
you.
man. They're not inhibited with their imaginations. They don't have any kind of qualms about playing pretend. Like adults, they'll be like, maybe I don't know, I do this. Is that okay? And kids are like, I do this, then this, and it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh yeah, yeah. I tell my niece and nephew, like, you hear a rumbling underground. You think there might be creatures with a layer below you. Well, I use my acid breath and I breathe acid in their lair and I drown them all in acid. Like, okay, hold up. We're gonna back up just a couple steps.
Okay, let's roll some dice.
Yeah.
You know, I like being on this chat right now because you're totally giving me like, I don't know, maybe it's like a confirmation bias, but like online, like I posted the video and it did really poorly, which I was surprised by because I am very proud of that video. It's all started with like I was watching a YouTube video on how to do YouTube, and they're like, "You should make a video on what you know." And I was like, "Well, I know D&D, and I'm an English teacher, so oh yeah, I play D&D with the kids. Let's make a video." I got some pushback about that video. People were like, "It's inappropriate for you to be teaching kids D&D. Teachers have no place teaching kids anything outside of the curriculum." I shared it in a Facebook group, and yeah, it was not great. And I was like, okay, maybe that's why the video did so badly, is that like this isn't acceptable. I don't know, but like for me, it's been amazing. But hearing other people's feedback, it's been mixed reviews.
That's wild. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people feel that way? I don't know. Maybe that's an unfair question. That's so strange.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
wouldn't have imagined. I've seen a couple videos you've posted about it. I've seen a few clips of you and the kids. And my first thought both times was, this is the most adorable thing I've ever seen. This man is doing God's work.
Right. And I mean, I stand by the video. I do. But even you posted something and somebody was saying how like, oh, are you trying to start like a controversy or something? And that was just like a tiny reflection of some of the feedback that I got, which is that like, stay away from our kids kind of thing. I think that like the culture in the West right now there is a caution that a lot of people have around like, what is it that, you know, educators are giving to the kids, and like, in what ways are you being influenced? And one of the feedback was, it was something like, we don't need teachers inundating our kids with, you know, anything outside of the lessons or something like that. And I was really surprised because for me, it's Dungeons and Dragons fits in the classroom. Like it belongs in the classroom. It's a learning tool. Like there's math, there's communication, there's cooperation. I think every skill that you want to build for social and education, you can incorporate with Dungeons and Dragons.
That's wild to me that you got that kind of feedback. I think in perspective, it makes some sense because you're right. There is, there are a lot of people who are on, who are, I guess, on alert that there are things happening in the schools that they weren't aware of before. I kind of wonder if you're getting lumped in with people doing different things than what you're trying to do. Because from what I've seen, you know, if you asked me if I thought Dungeons and Dragons belonged in the classroom before, I probably would have given you kind of a lukewarm, maybe with the right people running it, maybe answer. But I think, I mean, you completely convinced me in 30 seconds with that clip. I gotta say,
you know, I'm used to being lumped in because I'm a part of the Bro SR. So people are like, oh, well, he's just one of the bros. You know, people have blocked me and I've been nothing but nice to them. I'm like, what is up?
Yeah.
I said I like one-to-one time, not that I don't like you.
Yeah. No, I get that too. I get blocked a lot for that. I either have nothing to do with the Bro SR at all, or I'm the queen of it, depending on who you ask.
Right.
So I don't know.
You know, what got me into teaching what got me into teaching D&D in the classroom, before I moved to China and was an English teacher, I worked in therapy as a life coach. And I worked with 18 to 24-year-olds at an aftercare facility. And so they lived on campus, and they were like struggling with like social awareness, a lot of like dual diagnoses issues, but they'd be really bored because they'd be on campus, and after their like therapy sessions were done and their courses were done, they couldn't really leave and go other places. And so I would spend my like nights just hanging out with them, rolling dice. And I was aware that I was like, oh man, these guys are taking a lot from like social cues, like reading the room, learning cooperation skills, learning communication. And I was like, I could use this in class too. I was like, what I did before, I should apply it into what I'm doing now. And now every job I have, no matter what I do, I'm playing D&D. So
That's actually cool. I'm not sure that it could fit into every single job.
I'm round peg in a square.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that with you. And we got a comment here that says the parents do not know this is just a game. You weren't making the kids reenact Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, clearly you weren't. I mean, this is like small children we're talking. Your children are like what, 5 years old, something around that?
Yeah. My current class is from 4 to 6. If we get a young kid, they'll be 4, but mostly they're 5. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Jeffro has a good point here. You would think teachers would be assessed on how engaged their students are. I think that's an excellent point, because your students, like every one of those students cared about what you were doing. Like I don't even know if they knew that video was being taken, but they were so engaged that like,
no, I mean, they love D&D for sure.
They were learning.
I think so the way our classroom structure is set up, it's actually really weird. We have 2 homeroom teachers. One is Chinese and one is English speaker. And what that means is like the kids have completely not just different courses, but also different like styles whenever those courses are happening. And so they will always say, Mr. Mike's classes are the best class. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there.
Oh, that's perfect.
They love it. They love it. It might not just be the D&D. I'm just saying.
I don't know.
My co-teacher's not watching this, but I like to tease her. But
yeah. My favorite teacher in high school would have been the one that let me play D&D, if such a teacher existed for me. But did you have to go through like any administrative processes to get this in, or was it just something that you were able to add into the classroom without worrying about overhead? And how did that work?
I have a lot of liberty with what I teach in the class. I don't know if that's true for all teachers in China, or English teachers in China. But I've been doing it for a long time, and like the parents are super happy. They let me, as long as like we're hitting our course goals, which we have to prioritize that. As long as we do that, they don't really care what I do, as long as it's not, putting on a video. They wouldn't be okay with that. If I'm engaging with the kids and like getting them to talk and having them talk to each other, the administration would not care at all.
Right, because this for them is an English lesson, and so
absolutely
it is very important that they talk on their turn. So because they can't just say like sword. I do like that. That's their that's their go-to sword.
Elsa magic. I'm like, what is Elsa magic? It's ice. Okay, so what does the ice look like? You got to kind of coach them through it, but
yeah, I like that
sword.
And oh boy, we have Black Lodge Games here. Great Gold Worm. Hi guys. Everyone's getting in here. It's the place to be. It's a little bit less the place to be this week, because the place to be is Gen Con this week, so we've lost a lot of people there. Yeah, we picked a great
I'm having a blast. Like, this is great.
Me too.
This is actually my first one-on-one interview.
Really?
I've been invited to. Yeah. So I like it. It's fun.
That's strange, because I swear the wrong people are getting invited. I don't want to say the wrong people, actually, because I don't have anything against people who go around on every YouTube show doing interviews. Like, I'd never say anything bad about those people. But anyway, people are inviting the wrong people to these things, because they're inviting like people like me. Like, I don't do anything. I'm just an online D&D person. Like Mike is actually out here, or you are actually out here doing some very good work with this. You're using RPGs in a way that like I've never seen anybody else use RPGs this way. I've never seen anybody else who is posting about what they're doing with their students and how they're using RPGs to teach students English. Like that's something that is incredibly unique. And you are the type of person that should be invited to every single stream out there because people people need to hear that.
No, I honestly like I would like to do more educational RPG stuff, but the feedback I got from my channel was like they're not interested. So I do a lot of YouTube research, and I've told you before, and the way my channel has grown, like I've niched down a lot. And so if people are clicking on my YouTube videos, it's because they want to watch solo plays. That's all of my metrics tell me that. And so I did a Call of Cthulhu video. I got 80 views on that. That's crazy. Like that. I mean, for me, that's like super low. And so I was like, okay, so I can't move away from D&D. Okay, well, how about if I do D&D education? No, it was so bad. The metrics were like, you can't do it, but that's okay. I could still do the content because I just love it and I don't really give a shit. But if I want to like grow my channel, once I hit 1,000 subscribers, then I'm just gonna do whatever I want. But right now, I'm just like giving my audience what they want, which is just solo plays. They want to see,
I hear you're almost at 1,000.
I'm so close. It's awesome.
Right. Yeah,
I love YouTube. It is so fun. How do you like it? I want to know. What do you think?
I get so nervous about it. Like I'll, for every actual video I release, that is like I release one video for like every 10 I record, and I'm like, I can't publish it. I look goofy in it, or there's something between my teeth, or like I said something dumb. Right.
Dude,
I just
post them. I watched your video this morning.
Oh yeah.
I woke up, I watched it. I think honestly, you were talking about how it's free form. You did a really good job staying on track, first of all. So maybe you had some bullet points, I think.
No, I was like, I'm just gonna talk about this because I was really just wanting to kind of get to a call to action to have to like just say people need to go into local game stores and run more in-person games and foster the culture of running in-person games, which is something you are doing with very young children, which is great because I guarantee you that one or two of those kids is going to grow up and they're going to be like, I want to do what Mike did. And these kids are going to form like a high school gaming group that's going to be completely inspired by you. And
I taught some 10 to 11-year-olds one time. I had an after school class and there was only 4 of them. And I talked to them about what D&D was. We played one session with my dice. The next week I showed up. They bought dice towers, their own dice. They had their own pencils and papers. They're like, all right, let's go. They set everything out like, all right, come on. It was so awesome seeing that. I was just like, you guys got your own dice. You got dice towers. Like you guys are all set up. They all went on they went online and just got the same shop and they just geared out. They had to get the gear. So exciting.
So I do have a question about like how you teach these kids English with D&D. So when you teach them the words, do you teach them Bronstein or Bronstein?
You know, it's really important that the Chinese, they're going to find their own dialect for it. So maybe it's Bronstein in Florida, but over here we call it Bronstein. But that's not the issue. The hardest time I have is getting my kids to submit their one-to-one downtime orders. They're the worst. 4-year-olds are so unpredictable.
Wow. I bet you're not even going to have a session Bronstein in like, it's going to take you 6 months to get there.
Maybe. We'll see. Those kids.
Apparently that would be 1,000.
That would be hilarious if we had a PvP with 5-year-olds. Nothing could possibly go wrong.
No.
Oh,
so you would never allow
parents. No. The underlying principle for my games are everything that I preach that you shouldn't do on YouTube. So I do modules. I enforce cooperation. They have to learn because they're developing social skills. They don't have any ability to like read the room yet. They're developing empathy at this age, and so I want to help bring those skills up. And so PvP probably off the table. Yep.
Right. So no downtime, no Bronstein. This is wow. Why did I even have you on? By the way,
Loser game.
right. Conventional play. You were 4 subs to 1,000, I hear. But
oh my goodness. Oh my
yeah,
God. We're so close.
yeah.
We're on the cusp.
And we have
I've been doing
Doranol
it for a
says
year.
the new crop of RPG YouTubers are outstanding. They're talking about you.
I've seen this guy on Twitter, Doranol.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Frankenstein.
Right. So there won't be any kindergarten level Bronstein always on D&D world anytime soon. But I do have a question. Can your small groups affect each other?
They don't. They're mostly like very like, you know, when you're a 5-year-old, your primary focus and concern is yourself. And so like they're like, how can me, us, we, like whoever's here right now, how can we do what we want to do? They're not really too concerned with like the other groups whenever the other groups aren't there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been like 30 years since I was a 5-year-old, so I'm
they're hyper focused on one thing, me.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, what's great about D&D is like you can teach them like, well, what about them? What about, what about us, right? Like there's so many things that, even some adults I think could really use to learn from social cues that you could read from playing D&D. Yeah.
Yeah, I just got through kind of meeting with a group that I wanted to that I was gonna DM for, and I was telling them, all right, guys, I'm not gonna impose any of this on you. You got to be an adult about things. Your actions have consequences, and the only rule is be an adult about the consequences. I guess you can't say that. So yeah, I guess that's a completely different game at that point.
Was this as your local game store?
So I was gonna run a game at my local game store, and I got hijacked and pulled away, and like, hey, you wanna run our game? Come here, Harmony. We got a game for you to run. So yeah, I went and met with some people, and I was kind of explaining like how I do things and like what one-to-one time is and stuff. And one guy was like, so we're gonna do Bronstein, and I was like, what?
I saw that tweet. That's cool, man. I want to get back to your video that I saw this morning. I have some feedback for you. I think that if you have something to say, you should turn on the camera, press record, and put it out there. So my feedback to you is post it. Don't like get up in your head, because like the thing is as dungeon masters, I get it. Like right before session, I'm like, okay, I can do this. This is all right. I'm going to wrangle these cats. We got this, or I'm going to put myself on YouTube and people are going to judge me and be mean. And that's just a part of it. And also, who cares? Like who cares what they say?
Yeah.
Put your stuff out there. I really liked your video today. I related to that one a lot, because I think that when you take the time to hit record and you have an idea and you want to say something, it comes off so much more naturally. So much more, what's the word? Like it's charismatic, I think. I really related to it and I enjoyed it a lot. So do more of those. Those are good.
Okay. I thank you. I appreciate that a lot, because it's hard for me. It's so scary. But see, I shouldn't be, because I have so much like cringy content out there and like dumb things I've said in interviews that like I can handle a bad video. Like it should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, who gives a shit, right? Like, there's if you don't have haters, you're doing it wrong. So
and yeah, I gotta
post it.
I gotta respond here to Jeffro. Yes, the guy pronounced it Steen, which is how I knew instantly where he got it because he mispronounced it in the same way I mispronounce it. And at this point, I continue to mispronounce it because when I changed it, people were like, "Oh no, this girl was bullied out of using her regional dialect," and so
say it
I
however
just
the hell
I
you want.
yeah, it's whatever.
Brostein is the only way to say it from now
Mhm.
on because we don't have permission to do Bronsteins, and it came from on high. So no more Bronsteins, just Brosteins. That's it. You know,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to change the subject a little bit, but what did Griff think would happen when you make a movie about how these people did this really fun thing a long time ago? You don't think anybody's going to try to do that thing that they watched in the movie? Like,
I don't know. I expect to talk about Griff.
yeah, I probably should. He blocked me, and I don't know
I don't
why, because I
know.
even made a video saying how
Mhm.
great his stuff was. It's like, oh, I really
Yeah.
like this documentary, and then he blocked me.
Well, I'm really,
Sorry.
really hoping I can convince Griff to come on here. So it
Oh,
would be
okay.
nice to
Yeah,
Griff.
but I
Yeah,
mean, like,
I'd love to have
if
him
you
on.
make
Mhm.
something and you're like, hey, this really cool thing happened, and this is what they did, like, I think the logical conclusion to that is that people are going to try it, and they're
Yeah,
going to say,
I
oh yeah,
think
I did
everyone
that
should.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone should. I mean, the structure of that game is a lot like many 4X games that have been around for a long time. And I know they've been doing Bronsteins for a long time, but like the name is coming back into favor and people are having a name for this type of game that people are playing. People are starting to know what it is. And I think it's spreading. I I think it is because I'm hearing like more people talk about it. And so I used to go to these like murder mystery parties or like these assassination parties, right? Where like everybody would come with a role and we'd all have goals and someone was going to get assassinated halfway through. Of course, it was just pretend. This isn't like,
I mean, not
obviously I'm
that
not
much
part of
fun.
it. I'm not part of a like murder cult,
Murder
but
cult.
right. But no, we would do that. Like I had a local guy who would run these and write these out. And these were like so close to being Bronsteins, but we didn't have the word for it. And I like the word for it.
It's
And
cool.
I'd really love to talk to Griff about it. I'd love to have him on, but we'll see. I'm not sure. I know he's blocked a lot of people on Twitter. He actually blocked me on Twitter. I hope that he reconsiders, but if not, it is what it is.
Sending out the Harmony Ginger block, man.
Mhm. Yep.
Fragility.
Unfortunately. Yeah, well, believe it or not, hundreds of people have me blocked on Twitter, literally hundreds. I
It's
am
easy to
very
believe, actually. Now that you
yeah,
say it, I get it.
yeah, yeah.
So I want to hear. Can we change the subject a little bit? I want to
Please go
know
on.
all about your 1-to-1 time 5e game. So I've been running Old School Essentials, which is like a BX clone,
Mhm.
and we're on month 23 of my 1-to-1 time game, and it's hard for me to think back. Like, how many months have you been doing your 5e game?
I started in February, so
Okay.
March, April, May, June, July, August. We just started August, so like 5 or 6 since I started it. Yeah.
So I don't know if this is going to be your experience. I would like to hear about it. But for my table, every 3 to 4 months, the game transforms into a new unique style of play, and the world since the world is always on, like the game is always evolving. Right now, we are in an always on Bronstein, which is really difficult to manage as a dungeon master. And so I wonder, when you made the transition, I do have a question here. When you made the transition from just a stop time game to a 1-to-1 time style campaign, what did you notice was different right away? And what is different now than when you first started the 1-to-1 time game?
Wow. Okay. That question has layers. So
Right.
the first things, some people had some trouble getting used to the 1-to-1 time from stop time. I think the biggest hurdle was oh, if we spend half of the game tavern RPing, like real time is moving. So if we just play house, like things are going to move around us and the world is going to continue to go on. And we happen to know that there is a spider invasion that's going to happen in an indeterminate amount of months. And that will happen regardless of whether we sit around and do nothing or act on it. So I think there was kind of a rough patch to start where people were like, oh, okay, so we actually have to do things or else like the world will just move without us. So that was a learning curve. But I think once people got into the swing of things, it got a little bit better. I still have people, they talk to each other between sessions. They'll like
Good.
They'll plan between sessions. We have a Discord going. So I mean, I think after they got over that and a couple other hurdles, there were a few hurdles for like players who weren't doing anything with their downtime were like kind of falling behind and feeling like, oh gosh, I need to do more with my downtime. But like, I mean, some players, it's hard to get them to say like 2 words in between games. And they're like, oh, I gotta say my character is training to level or something, which I'll assume they are most of the time, but they have to like declare it sometimes and they forget to. But
have those characters, have those players, I mean, have they adjusted their play style or are they still leaning into
mostly
their
yes.
behaviors?
Mostly yes. So there has been some slow evolution there. But I don't know about it leaning into different styles of game. We're right now in a transitory. We're transitioning right now from one part of the map to another part of the map as the players are migrating towards the Fey forests because there was a right. So I haven't explained how how the gods are still acting in the world, and this is going to be weird. Okay, so just some magical bullshit happened, and there is now half of a dwarf fortress in the middle of the ocean next to some Fey woods next to the coast.
Got it.
And there are some very confused dwarves there, and very angry elves. So yeah, who just got shunted over there. So the players are going over there to kind of figure out what's going on. I floated, hey, you guys could make PCs over here if you want. Like, no, we'll just move. And so they're going over there, and I have no idea what that's going to be like. But the players are kind of building up slowly. So I think there were some players who could make it every week and some players who couldn't make it every week. And so quickly we have the players who could make it all the time. They're at higher power levels than the other players. So they kind of made secondary characters that they switch between sometimes to kind of not get too far ahead, I think. But it doesn't matter if they get too far ahead or not because those spiders are coming either way.
That's something to consider, right? So like my wife, she gets to play in every session that she wants to, right? And so she has like 4 characters in the world. They're all super powerful because anytime she wants to play, she can. And so she's always trying to incorporate new characters to bring her power level down to match some of the other people who are new. And I always have new people coming into the game. And so, yeah, that I've seen that reflected in my game as well.
Yeah. So they've been taking more into their own hands recently, which is good. And it's become more and more player driven, I think, in the past 2 or 3 months than it was before. Because before I would just drop a bunch of quest hooks and they'd do what they wanted and then maybe do something off that. But thankfully, they've started their own church and they are working with that now. So at least we have something going. Yeah. And
you're a 0 prep DM, right?
I'm a low prep DM. I'm not going to say 0 prep, but I do fairly low prep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
okay. Right on. Good.
We have a really good question now. Does this mean Dwighters exist in the game? Well, actually, no, they do not. But Dwighters do.
Dwighters? Are these dwarf spider people?
Yes. We have Dwighters.
Dwighters. Dwighters. You can't even say it. I want to attack them with the Dwightos. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I mentioned to you, I think it was one of your live streams, that I run Barrel Maze, and I have in a 1-to-1 time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually how I started my 1-to-1 time game was I had the Keep on the Borderlands and Barrel Maze, and I just dropped them on the map. I was like, you're in this little town right here. You tell me where you want to explore. And this was before I had even heard of Zero Prep. But the principles of it were already in my brain because I do solo plays. And solo plays are basically just zero prep practice. Like, you roll up a dungeon, you fill it up, and you go. And so they have done 3 caves. This is in a 2-year-long campaign. They've done 3 caves in the Caves of Chaos. They've done maybe 15 barrows in Barrow Maze. And everything else, they're just not interested. They don't want to go down there anymore. So like now they just want to they want to clear hexes and like gather up armies and smash each other. If they get a quest from a high level NPC, which are patron players, if they get a quest from one of them, their first instinct is to get the gold from the reward and then kill the patron player as quickly and as efficiently as possible. You cannot trust these people. You cannot.
Wow.
I think you would do really well in my game now that I think about it, Harmony. You would do really well just murdering whoever you're around.
Okay. How come you can just shoot R-dubs in cold blood?
That wasn't me.
I
that
can get
Dunder.
Assassinated. That was Dunder? I thought that was you.
Dunder.
Oh, wait, no, you killed Dunder.
I tried to kill Dunder. Dunder just killed me. And Dunder killed everybody. I just tried to retaliate.
So I'm just wondering, how come you guys can be so hostile and aggressive towards each other, and one of you can brag in chats, I'm gonna kill Harmony Ginger, and that's all normal. That's all business as usual. But when I send a Medusa or whatever, a ShamWow to stone you, no, that's certainly scandalous.
All I hear is cope. I was nothing but nice to you. All right. I gave you some credits for doing a job. I kept my word. I demonstrated my value in that I got you off planet safely. Okay. And as soon as I am useless to you, you sick your Medusa on me.
Okay, but you're missing a crucial point.
It's okay.
I had a Gorgon burning a hole in my pocket. I had to use it. Okay, look, yeah. I had like 1 or 2 sessions where I just had to kill somebody with this, and you were the one that was going to go for it. So I mean,
it's like what is it? Chekhov's gun. If you have the gun, you got to use the gun.
Exactly. Yeah. I had limited time. Somebody had to die from that, and well, I'm sorry it was you, but
my precious
somebody
NPC.
was gonna. Yep.
Oh man, that Traveler game, like, I love being a patron. It's got to be more fun than being a player, honestly, because I get to do something new every week, and so I get to fall in love with like all these different characters and affect the world, and I have to do like this much work. Mostly I'm just like hanging out in the back channels, like editing videos or playing World of Warcraft. And you guys are like, making your little machinations, and then I get to hop back in and like change the world a little bit. It is so fun being a patron.
Yeah, I enjoyed your contribution to the game too. So real quick, let's react to the nicest comments we'll ever see about us. Roxy, thank you so much for saying my voice is sweet. I appreciate that. And,
that's my wife.
Oh, is it? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I was like, that person's nice, and I've never seen them before. Jeffro Johnson says, you guys run better RPG campaigns than anybody.
Jeffro's in the chat.
Yeah, Jeffro's in the chat. And
hey, Jeffro, great to see you.
You can't be more enthusiastic, I see. And he actually had a question. He said they prefer the overworld to the dungeon, and then prefer patron play over wilderness adventures. That's what happens to Trollopolis. That was, I believe, in reference to your campaign that you were talking about a little bit ago.
Yeah. So we established a bunch of nobles, right? Every player gets to have a noble, and these are high-level players who they mostly just plot against each other and try to betray each other. We started off with 7 nobles for the people who actually wanted to do it. And now we're down to 4 because they have done a really good job about murdering each other. But what's really cool is that you don't need level 1. Like, you don't have to play low level D&D. Like, it's actually like, I've done it so much, I don't want to play Mudcore anymore. I was telling B-dubs about this in one of the back channels. I was like, I just don't even want to do level 1 to 3 ever again. Like, everybody at my table has done it enough. If we just hop straight in at level 9 or name level, the game is so much more fun. Like, they use these magic, like, mirror, basically these cards, and they can talk to each other, and they can, like, make deals. It's diplomacy, but with D&D. And so they never trust each other, but they always work together to kill. Like, they'll pick one person that has to go out. They're like, all right, everybody, we're all on the same page. It's this one, right? And then they will do whatever it takes to take that person out. And the person who knows that they're marked, I think a couple times they were like, it's me, isn't it? Nobody's chatting with me. It's me, right? They're coming for me, right?
I love that. That's what happens
so
in a lot
fun.
of these like 4X games or Bronstein games. And I've kind of, so people online are starting to pick up on it. I have to say, I hate it, but they are. In my real life friend group, there is an ongoing meme. Kill Harmony first. Kill her first. Kneecap her from the beginning. Destroy her. Because if we don't, she's going to be a problem. We have to team up and just get rid of her from the beginning, or else you just can't trust her later, which is wrong. It is completely wrong, because I never lie. I always do exactly what I say I'm going to do.
That was kind of our plot with the Moonstein. It was just,
I know.
Honestly, it wasn't mine, but I was in the group that decided that was the plan. So
okay.
That was the
It's okay. I kind of understood what I was getting into with that.
Harmony first.
I'm used to it. Yeah, I'm used to it. You know what, though? I didn't want to die first. I was so worried about dying first. I'm like, oh man, these guys finally asked me to play a game with them. I can't die first. But thankfully, Dundermoose solved that problem for me. So I was good after
he was the equalizer. Like the Denzel Washington equalizer. He was just like, everybody was done. The character which will live in infamy. Yeah, no, I think that Bronsteins are awesome. I want to do a Bronstein in every system. Like, I want to every game. I want to do vampire. I do. The Black Lodge guys, they're always talking about vampire. Every time they do a vampire video, I'm just like, I want to try it. It's so cool. Like, I like vampires. That's cool as shit.
Black Lodge Games has piqued my interest in it too, because I've always thought, like, oh man, I have friends that play vampire, and I played vampire with them, I think, once. And I don't know if it was the friend group or if it was just not a good fit for me, but yeah, I don't know. It didn't really jive with me. But then so I dropped it, right? And then Black Lodge Games starts bringing it up and how great it is. And I'm like,
I think like the way they're describing it sounds like you could Bronstein it, like, or they already do. I don't know.
It does sound like it, because there's a lot of socio-political instability going on that it seems to to go into a little bit. Yeah,
it's the only thing I want to play. So like that is the system I'm most excited about. So I'm reading the Requiem 2nd edition. So because I think it's going to be easiest to play that one. There's only like 5 clans to learn instead of like 100. So I'm reading through that one, and we've got to Bronstein it. Like, it's going to be so fun. I love vampires. That's so neat. Like, you get to be the bad guy. That's already every character I play anyway. So
yeah, I like playing bad guys by necessity. It's a good archetype for a character. It's always interesting. All right. So we're kind of coming up on the hour marker. We're long past it, a little bit past it. Was there anything that like you wanted to talk about that I didn't bring up or that didn't come up here?
I asked all the questions that I had of you.
Okay.
I think we're good. I don't want to talk again until I've forgiven you for ShamWow.
Okay.
Don't message me on Twitter. Don't at me.
We're not you on Twitter.
Thank you, Harmony, for having me on. It was actually really fun. Like I want to do this kind of stuff more often for sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. Was there anything you wanted to respond to in the chat? Because there was actually you haven't been looking, right? So before we end, we have to end on something fun here. Dundermoose says Jeffro is objectively nice. And that brings me to something very important, like the new staple of bro culture, it seems, is thanking people for retweets, quote tweets, and comments. So
yeah, the YouTube section is always, thanks for the view.
Yeah,
thumbs up.
Yeah, that's becoming a new thing. Oh, Mercurius, thank you very much. I appreciate the $5. But yeah, I have fun. I'm glad that we did this. Tomorrow, guys, I will be back with Black Lodge Games, and we will be talking about the completely opposite thing from today. Today, we were talking mostly about playing D&D with children. Tomorrow, we will be talking about the shucked oyster, which
Horse.
is thank you, Mike. So
ready for that Kickstarter. Let's go.
Oh man, and here I thought this might be a kid-friendly episode. It was not. It was not. Never play this channel in a room with your kids. It's a terrible idea. But yes, tomorrow we will be with Black Lodge Games talking about their new Shadow Dark supplement, the Shucked Oyster. Yep. So as far away from today as you can possibly get. Anyway, thanks guys for hanging out. And if you're at Gen Con especially, thanks for making the time for us. Anyway, I will see you all tomorrow evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.